I have some questions for more practical applications of mindfulness because I'm sure you have a lot of good info in your book that can help. So, something like distractions. How can listeners start to regain focus? Because we're so easily distracted these days.
One of the things I think people find helpful is the idea of an attention budget. So let's say you start the day, you wake up with $100 in your attention budget. And that's going to get depleted as the day goes on, right? Inevitably through all of the challenges and the pulls on our attention. And again, I think there's this idea about, the first thing I'd say is there's this thing about intentionality. Can you go into the day with a sense of, where do I want to spend my budget? Or am I just going to let any old person take this money away from me, take my attention away from me? And there is a reality to that, right? You know, if you just go, the obvious example is to go on a phone and just, you go, my gosh, an hour later, 2 hours later, you've just been following links. And it's very seductive. But that can be true with all sorts of things. You know, you can be rehearsing a resentment in your head, or somebody can cut you up on the highway. And the next hour, you're spending dollars of your attention budget about that person who cut you up, who didn't even notice you. You've given that all away. So I think the first thing is the sort of intentionality. And that's what I meant by kind of setting up the day and leaning into the day. And being, I guess, deliberate about how we spend our attention, how we use our attention. And I think the second is, I think, you know, there are meditation practices that we know can help us develop attentional capacity, if you like, so that you can get better at focus. So there are kind of attention focused practices that can help with really keeping our attention. And I think the third thing I'd say is just for people to be really kind to themselves about this, because it's so easy to make this into a fight or a battle. And we all get distracted. We all get pulls on our attention. And just being kind and going, oh, what happened there? What was that about? And, you know, I am a bit prone to, you know, it'll be different for everybody, for just checking the messages from my friends or going on my favorite news channel or whatever it might be. And just being kind with yourself and just each time firmly, kindly coming back to what it is you're focused on. That being said, you talked earlier about flow. You know, sometimes it's really nice, actually, just to have periods of reverie and periods where you just let your mind go wherever it wants to go. So it doesn't become like a boot camp or something where we kind of punish ourselves for not being totally focused like a sort of ninja.
Yeah, I don't think it's about forcing yourself to be focused. I think it's about what you mentioned, being intentional and aware of, why am I getting distracted, right? Am I running away from something? Am I avoiding something? Or I think it all, like with everything, more awareness can help us make better decisions.
I sense this is something that comes naturally for you, but I always love Simone Weil's idea that our attention is something that we can be incredibly generous with. So she has this thing she talks about of, one of the most generous things you can do is to give somebody your undivided attention. And I think that's so true, right? So if a friend or a child feels that they have our undivided attention, it's such a precious gift. And I would extend that to ourselves. Giving ourselves our undivided attention is it. So you move towards this idea of this is a gift, right? Our attention is a gift. It's valuable. Cherish it. Look after it. Take care of it. Use it wisely.
Yes, definitely. Okay, the next question is about dealing with stress or like overwhelm, things like that. How can mindfulness help in those situations?
It's really interesting. Overwhelm is just something that a lot of people describe, right? And when we feel overwhelmed, our sense of capacity and our sense of being able to cope just shrinks. So I think what can really help in those moments is a practice which is called anchoring. And the anchoring is a bit like the 50-50 practice, but we have somebody somewhere in our body or somewhere outside of our body we can just come back to, like the soles of the feet or the sitting bone, and just changing the posture and coming back into anchoring. and really just resting in the breath or the body or whatever it might be. And that's a way just in the moment of just noticing overwhelm and anchoring. I guess what I'd say as well is one of the things that I think comes from a sustained mindfulness practice is a growing sense of capacity. It's certainly been my journey over years, is the more I practice and the more I bring it into my life and learn, the more I actually feel I have a sense of capacity and I'm less likely to be overwhelmed. And then you feel a bit more confident, right? So it's kind of becomes like a virtuous circle. I do think, back to what we were saying a little while ago about awareness, the more aware we are, the more we can realize that actually we need to do some things to look after ourselves, to nourish ourselves. It's like when you look at a battery in the top right corner, there's a little icon which tells us what the charge is on the battery, right? And if it's 80%, all is good. If it's down to 20%, you're going, gosh, okay, it's a bit run down. Then it goes to critical and then it switches off. And I think through mindfulness, we become really good at being able to do that with ourselves. Okay, I'm good. I've got a sense of energy and vitality. This is a day that I can really lean into. Gosh, today, actually, I'm running at 20, 30%. I've got to take it easy. I've got to do some things that really nourish myself today and maybe just take a few charges through the day if I can.
Oh, totally.
And a lot of people aren't doing that, right? They're just rushing through their day, sometimes for really good reasons. They've got young kids, whatever it might be. But I think that we would never treat our phone that way. We'd never treat our phone or our car that way. And I think part of my work is about trying to shift the narrative so that we start treating people, we ourselves, but also the people who are responsible to us, maybe our family, our friends. But if we employ other people, we look after them in the same way.
Yeah. Well, I love that because I kind of had a mini aha moment that if you lived mindfully and you were aware, then you wouldn't get to the point of stress or overwhelm because you have more check-ins with yourself, right? You're aware, oh, my battery's at 20%. Oh, it's at 10% now. Instead of waiting until it's 0 or negative and everything's
Exactly right.
So it's almost like that is the solution itself, right? Just to have more awareness, have more care. So it's both the awareness and it's also mindfulness is also a way to recharge, right? Like the anchoring to me seems like a way to recharge.
Absolutely.
And meditation, all of those, there's so many practices that feel good, right? They help us recharge that energy and that build the capacity. So yeah, that was really great.
I guess what I'd add to that, I think, which I think you pointed to is that this idea of kind of checking in and doing things differently if we need to, depending on our state of battery, if you like. That can be like a micro practice. It can be in this moment. Okay, in this moment, I'm at 20%. What do I need right now? But it can also be a practice at the level of a day or a week or a month or a year or okay, I'm about to become a parent. This next phase of my life is going to look a bit different. Or my children are about to leave home. This next phase of my life is about to look different. So it can be done in the tiniest moments, but it can also be done in the bigger moments. I'm retiring.
Yeah.
What do I need as I move through this transition in my life?
Yeah.
And I think when we do that, you're exactly right. You don't get to the point of going, oh my gosh, I'm at critical levels or I don't know what I'm doing or whatever.
Yeah. I actually think that's one of the biggest shifts in my life too, is to reflect more. Like I said, I'm big on journaling, even goal setting, planning for the new year. I try to make it I actually journal a little bit each day, right? I write down my highlights, what I've learned, whatever things that I want to remember, but I try to make it a habit to do like a monthly review or monthly reflection. And so I think the more you're aware and reflecting, the more you can steer it. And it doesn't have to be every moment or every day, but it's like you said, it could be a month, it could be a year, but it's important to do this though. Like if you don't do this, that's when you miss a lot of things in life and you don't realize your state.
Do you mind me asking, was there a period where you did one of those, say, monthly reviews and you had to recalibrate something? Was there an example of that?
Oh my gosh, always. I always have to even not out of my monthly reviews, right? When I'm not feeling well, I journal. I'm like, okay, what's wrong? What do I need to change? I did that last night. I'm feeling a little bit tired. What do I need to change? What can I take off my plate next year?
Yep. Yep.
I'm always doing this, always recalibrating. And yeah, because you have to listen to your energy kind of, you can't go living in a way that's unsustainable. So I'm
Yep.
all about, yeah, how do I move forward in a sustainable way that feels good, where I'm still proud of myself doing what I want to do. But it's a balance of everything.
I love that idea of kind of listening to your energy and recalibrating your energy. And I
Yes.
also love that word sustainable, right? How can
Yes.
we be in the world in a way that feels sustainable? And that's kind of both in a real sense, but also that I love kind of the way that also invokes the idea of the natural world. Because if you look at forests and you look at
Oh,
ecosystems, they've
yes.
got built-in ways of sustaining themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nature grows and flourishes, and yet it takes a break, and
Yep.
yeah, nature is like the biggest inspiration for us.